Book 6, Chapter 6. Alas, Zanoni, the aspirer, the dark, bright one, didst thou think that the bond between the survivor of ages and the daughter of a day could endure? Didst thou not foresee that, until the ordeal was past, there could be no equality between thy wisdom and her love? Art thou absent, now seeking amidst thy solemn secrets the solemn safeguards for child and mother, and forgettest thou that the phantom that served thee hath power over its own gifts, over the lives it taught thee to rescue from the grave? Dost thou not know that fear and distrust, once sown in the heart of love, spring up from the seed into a forest that excludes the stars? Dark bright one, the hateful eyes glare beside the mother and the child. All that day Viola was distracted by 1,000 thoughts and terrors, which fled as she examined them to settle back the darklier. She remembered that, as she had once said to Glyndon, her very childhood had been haunted with strange forebodings, that she was ordained for some preternatural doom. She remembered that, as she told him this, sitting by the seas that slumbered in the arms of the Bay of Naples, he too had acknowledged the same forebodings, and a mysterious sympathy had appeared to unite their fates. She remembered, above all, that, comparing their entangled thoughts, both had then said that with the first sight of Zanoni, the foreboding, the instinct, had spoken to their hearts more audibly than before, whispering that with him was connected the secret of the unconjectured life. And now, when Glyndon and Viola met again, the haunting fears of childhood thus referred to woke from their enchanted sleep. With Glyndon's terror she felt a sympathy against which her reason and her love struggled in vain. And still, when she turned her looks upon the child, it watched her with that steady, earnest eye, and its lips moved as if it sought to speak to her, but no sound came. The infant refused to sleep. Whenever she gazed upon its face, still those wakeful, watchful eyes, and in their earnestness there spoke something of pain, of upbraiding, of accusation. They chilled her as she looked. Unable to endure, of herself, this sudden and complete revulsion of all the feelings which had hitherto made up her life, she formed the resolution natural to her land and creed. She sent for the priest who had habitually attended her at Venice, and to him she confessed, with passionate sobs and intense terror, the doubts that had broken upon her. The good father, a worthy and pious man, but with little education and less sense, one who held, as many of the lower Italians do to this day, even a poet to be a sort of sorcerer, seemed to shut the gates of hope upon her heart. His remonstrances were urgent, for his horror was unfeigned. He joined with Glyndon in imploring her to fly, if she felt the smallest doubt that her husband's pursuits were of the nature which the Roman Church had benevolently burned so many scholars for adopting, and even the little that Viola could communicate seemed to the ignorant ascetic irrefragable proof of sorcery and witchcraft. He had, indeed, previously heard some of the strange rumors which followed the path of Zanoni, and was, therefore, prepared to believe the worst. The worthy Bartolomeo would have made no bones of sending Watt to the stake had he heard him speak of the steam engine, but Viola, as untutored as himself, was terrified by his rough and vehement eloquence. Terrified, for by that penetration which Catholic priests, however dull, generally acquire in their vast experience of the human heart, hourly exposed to their probe, Bartolomeo spoke less of danger to herself than to her child. Sorcerers, said he, have ever sought the most to decoy and seduce the souls of the young, nay, the infant. And therewith he entered into a long catalogue of legendary fables, which he quoted as historical facts, all at which an Englishwoman would have smiled, appalled the tender but superstitious Neapolitan, and when the priest left her with solemn rebukes and grave accusations of a dereliction of her duties to her child, if she hesitated to fly with it from an abode polluted by the darker powers and unhallowed arts, Viola, still clinging to the image of Zanoni, sank into a passive lethargy which held her very reason in suspense. The hours passed, night came on, the house was hushed, and Viola, slowly awakened from the numbness and torpor which had usurped her faculties, tossed to and fro on her couch, restless and perturbed. The stillness became intolerable, yet more intolerable the sound that alone broke it, the voice of the clock, knelling moment after moment to its grave. The moments, at last, seemed themselves to find voice, to gain shape. She thought she beheld them springing, wan and fairy-like, from the womb of darkness. And ere they fell again, extinguished into that womb, their grave, their low, small voices murmured, "Woman, we report to eternity all that is done in time. What shall we report of thee, O guardian of a newborn soul?" She became sensible that her fancies had brought a sort of partial delirium, that she was in a state between sleep and waking, when suddenly one thought became more predominant than the rest. The chamber, which, in that and every house they had inhabited, even in the Greek Isles, Zanoni had set apart to a solitude on which none might intrude, the threshold of which even Viola's step was forbid to cross, and never, hitherto, in that sweet repose of confidence which belongs to contented love, had she even felt the curious desire to disobey. Now that chamber drew her towards it. Perhaps there might be found a somewhat to solve the riddle, to dispel or confirm the doubt. That thought grew and deepened in its intenseness. It fastened on her as with a palpable and irresistible grasp. It seemed to raise her limbs without her will. And now, through the chamber, along the galleries thou glidest, O lovely shape, sleepwalking, yet awake. The moon shines on thee as thou glidest by, casement after casement, white-robed and wandering spirit, thine arms crossed upon thy bosom, thine eyes fixed and open, with a calm, unfearing awe. Mother, it is thy child that leads thee on. The fairy moments go on before thee. Thou hearest still the clock-knell tolling them to their graves behind. On, gliding on, thou hast gained the door. No lock bars thee, no magic spell drives thee back. Daughter of the dust, thou standest alone with the night in the chamber where, pale and numberless, the hosts of space have gathered round the seer.